Hello, it's Dina with Design Creative Bling. A few people had asked me how I did the technique on this card, and I thought I would give it a shot at doing a video on it. I don't do this on a regular basis, so bear with me. First, I took cold press watercolor paper, and I used Gina K amalgam ink and stamped the hello, and then I stamped the Mondo Magnolia by Ellen Hudson, and the hello came from this set also. Excuse me. I got something in my throat there. I used ink on 3 embossing ink, and I also used ink on 3 chrome embossing powder and embossed the flower, and it also clung to the amalgam ink and gave it this kind of darker silver. You can kind of see a little bit of the black through it. I went ahead and prepared this to save a little bit of time. I'm now going to take this alizarin crimson, not sure if I'm saying that right, but this is Color Burst by Ken Oliver. And while we were at Junkie Fest, Effie had taught us a very neat watercoloring technique, and that's what I used to do the flower. And as you can see, my brush is still a little dirty, but it's the same color that I was using, so it won't make any difference. But Effie does this by adding water into the palette and liquefying the powder. I prefer for this to use it dry, so I just pick up a little bit of the powder with a finer brush and drop it on here. And one of the things that I forgot to grab was a paper towel. Hold on just a second, and I will grab that real quick. Okay. So then you wipe the brush off and kind of blend this so that it gets lighter, and then wipe it off again, and then blend it a little bit more. And that's what we're going to do with all of the petals. So you just wet down another one. And then pick up a little bit more of the powder and drop it in. Wipe it off. Dab it a little bit. Wipe it off again. And then if it's a little darker than you want it, you can dab it a little bit and it'll pick some of that color up. And we're gonna move right along here. I thought about doing some of this, or some of the petals, ahead of time so that it would save a little bit of time on the video. I never know if somebody wants to see all of it or just some of it, but I figure if they don't want to see the whole thing, you can always hit fast forward and go on by it. Alright, move right along here. This does not take long at all. Alright, do this one. And I try to do the darker part where it would naturally be darker. So where the petals overlap. And then usually right around this little edge, I try to make it a little bit darker, just to make it stand out. And we're moving right along. Alrighty. Well, we got 5 more to do. Oop, went out the line just a tad. If you get it as soon as it hits, or if you get some of the color, sometimes if it's too concentrated, it's a little bit harder to pick up, but you can take a clean brush with water and usually grab it back up so that it doesn't stain. And I'm doing this kind of fast. I hope I'm staying in frame here. I'm not quite tall enough to see the camera. Thought about going and getting a step stool, but that would kind of put me at a funny angle to do this. I like the way this color dries back. It kind of looks a little bit of the dark right there. It won't hurt anything. It kind of looks red when it's wet, and then it kind of gets a pink tint to it. I love this color. I hadn't really messed with my color burst. I owned them, but never used them until I took Effie's class. And now it's kind of an obsession. A little fine line right there. Some of that ink off. Ah. That's the nice thing about watercolor, is you can always fix it. Well, most of the time you can fix it. And then we have 2 left here. Sometimes the paper towel looks so pretty after you've wiped off several different colors. There's got to be something crafty to do with it. Alright, last one. Drop that on. And then blend it on out. Hope I'm not getting my head in the way. Alright. I'm gonna dry this real quick with the heat tool. And I'm not sure, you might just have to listen to the noise because this is a new phone and I'm not sure if you can pause it or if it'll just totally lose what I was doing. So hold on just a second. Hopefully that wasn't too terribly bad with the noise. I'm not sure what's gotten on this cardstock. I erase whatever it is, it'll come off. Don't you just love when something gets on what you're working on? I find that's where you put sequins and Nuvo drops. I don't think it's too noticeable. So, the next thing I did was lightly inked the flower up and stamped on the Gina K Masking Magic and fussy cut it out. And then put that over top of the flower. And let's see. There it goes. Like so. I think there's a couple little spots, but I don't think they'll hurt anything. I was at the track when I did this, the drag racing track, and I only had a very small piece, so I had to try to squeeze it on there. Alright, the next thing that I did was put the stencil over it, if I can figure out where I put it. Ah, there it is. I already sprayed it with the pixie spray, let it dry, and I'm gonna place it over top of this, and I lined it up at the very bottom. Oh, piece of thread, imagine that. I think I put this in my very well-loved Misty and use the magnet to hold it still instead of taping the cardstock down. Can't you tell how pretty it is? I use those sheets until they're covered up. So then I took Gina K's Sea Glass ink and blended using the Taylor Expressions blender brushes. They have the different colors for the different color families. Let's see, now I'm more in the screen here so that you can see what I'm doing. And I just blended this, made it a little darker at the outside edges and a little lighter towards the flower. Woo! It's not staying still too well there. Okay, that is that color. And then I took the lovely lavender. I kept calling it lilac, but it's actually lovely lavender. And blended this corner. This color is a little bit harder to tell if it's going on there. just like I did with the blue. I made it a little darker at the outside edges. And then the other thing that I did was because I noticed that color has a little bit more of a brown tone to the purple. So I took the Passionate Pink and just lightly went over it so that it picked up some of this pinky tone to mix with the purple to kind of put it more in line with the color I used on the flower. So it picked up a little bit of pink. Probably got a little heavy-handed up here in this part, but it'll be all right. Hey, anything goes, right? All right, so now I'm just going to peel this back and pull this mask off, and then lay it back down. And I'm going to take this little picket fence blender and dab it on the Passionate Pink. And I just used this when I was near the edges. It doesn't matter when you're right here near the lavender. It's more important near the blue that you don't go out of the edges. And I'll wipe off the embossing after I'm finished. I'll go back in the middle part and do more with the larger brush after I get the edges where this blue. Sounds like somebody's having fun shooting guns today. Must be the neighbors. Don't know if you could hear that on there. And I'll take a peek and see if this is where I want it in just a minute. Yeah, see, when you're in this part, you can kind of overlap. Now, it depends on what colors you use, too. So, looks like we need just a little bit more right here. And there we go. And that's all there was to it. And see how it gives that see-through look. Anyway, I hope y'all have a nice evening, and I am gonna go get to work. Y'all have a nice night. Thanks.